guys. Well, I just wanted to go over real quick, just to finish off that first video here, my big three that I will be carrying on the PCT this coming spring. And some of the stuff I already mentioned in the video. So the Cloudburst 3, which is a tent made by Tarp Tent. And I love this tent. I'll put a link in the description. And I actually got this dry bag from Z-Packs. And it's perfect because the tent fits perfect in there with some room to spare. And this will be going in the side pouch of my Gossamer Deer Mariposa, which I will go over a little bit too. And there's a few things that I did modify. I got this ground sheet from Mountain Laurel Designs. It's a great small cottage company in Virginia. I have heard some mixed reviews on their customer service, but as far as their products, they're very, very lightweight and they're well made. As well as the mini MSR groundhog stakes, which just keep right in there. The quilt that I'll be using is also from Mountain Laurel Designs. It's a 20 degree, and I'm not going to keep it in this stuff sack. This is just for video purposes. I actually have a DCF one, and this can compress down a lot smaller. This stuff sack just can't. But and there's some really unique features about this quilt that separates it from some of the other standard quilts out there. And you know, again, a lot of this stuff just comes down to personal preference. So I encourage everyone to sort of, you know, work with these cottage companies, and you know, you can order usually any type of gear and try it out for a few days, you know, inside of course, and see how you like it. If you don't, they usually have at least a 30-day return policy. But when you're doing that, please be mindful, you know, take care of the gear. Don't take it outside, and because it might be going to somebody else, you know, if you're returning it. Keep the tags on it. So a few things that separate this quilt, let me get out of here, are it's a lot wider than most. And to get more information, I encourage you to check out the website. I'll put a link in the description. This is actually a synthetic quilt. It's about 23 ounces, and this is for the large size, so this will fit somebody that's 6'1". One of the features though that's really interesting, that is the toe box. It comes with a toe plug. So when you cinch down the toe box, there's usually a small little space that might result in some airflow. Well, they have this that's included, so when it's stitched down, it kind of fills that gap. This quilt also has a zipper, as opposed to some that have Velcro and other things. But again, a lot of this stuff is just personal preference. But I like it because it's a lot wider than standard quilts, so you have a lot more room. And so for those of you that are taller or like to spread out, this is a great option. And you can get it in a couple different colors. And the great thing about synthetic is, if this gets wet on one side, it'll still, you can flip it over, it'll still retain some of its warmth value, and it dries out really, really fast. So, and that is rated at 28 degrees, but honestly, I'm a very warm sleeper, and I'd say it's more like 25, but again, that's just me. Some people are cold sleepers, and it might not be the same. This is my pillow. It's a reversible DCF bag, so on the inside, it has a, and I'm sure a lot of you are already familiar with these, but it has that soft pillow feel, and you just reverse it when you get to camp, stuff it. And so I like things that have a dual purpose. So not only is this a dry clothes bag, but it also doubles as a pillow. And this is also from Mountain Laurel Designs. I like theirs because it's a little bit larger than most. And yeah, again, these are things that are going to be personal preference. But one of the things I did touch on was the underwear situation. Now, like I said, the ex officios for me just did not work out. So I went with the Icebreakers. They're a merino wool underwear, and these weigh in right about 2 ounces. So very lightweight, but also very comfortable. And something to consider is that merino wool, it can become saturated a little under 30% before it'll actually start feeling wet. So it's just one of those things to consider. And generally on my long-term hikes, I carry a pair of underwear just to sleep in, because I just don't like going to sleep with wet, sweaty underwear. One thing this really has nothing to do with the big three, but this is an MSR snow stake, sand stake, but I actually carry this as my trowel, instead of a deuce of spades or something like that, to dig cat holes, because it also doubles as a stake. So if you find yourself in an area that's really sandy or snow, this works great. It just pairs with this little cable, and it's actually saved me a few times. Last year on the PCT, I think I was camping somewhere in Tiobe National Forest, and it was just so sandy. None of my other stakes were working, and this really came in handy. So let's go over to the pack. And again, I do apologize about the crudity of these videos. I'm gonna work on making them better, and you guys can give me some suggestions to whatever you think. This is brand new. I just got this recently, so it still has the tags on it. It just came in a couple days ago, and I absolutely love it so far. I'd actually tried one on before, a friend, and I just loved it. For me, what I love about it is the padding on the shoulder straps and hip belt are like no other. I mean, they're so thick, so comfortable and plush. And again, that's going to be personal preference. For me, I tend to like to cinch it up, especially when I'm carrying a heavier load, and some of the other packs really beat me up. Now what I did do, I have made some modifications. They do offer this Sit Light, more breathable pad, which I highly recommend because it's going to keep you a lot cooler in some of the warmer climates, and it's a lot easier to take in and out. Okay. Some of the other things that I really love about this pack are it's very versatile. They have all these loops here so that you can create your own compression system and modify it as you will. On the back, what I've done is this is standard mesh pocket, but I've added this compression cord, which it doesn't come standard. You can buy it for a couple bucks. And then on the inside, this is a DCF dry bag, which again I like because it enables you to store anything in here without worrying about it getting wet, and it weighs next to nothing. One of my favorite parts about this pack is this giant long pouch right here. It enables me to carry my tent right in there. It sticks up about maybe 1.5 inches. So as a safety, I've just put this on so when the tent is in there, and again, I'll do a more thorough video of what I'm talking about. It'll wrap around and hook over to this loop to make sure it just doesn't fall out. So that is the Gossamer Gary Mariposa, and like I said, you can buy compression cords from them and modify it as you will. I will say, if you do tend to put one on here, make sure that before you cut it, you have it as wide as possible so that when the pack is fully stuffed, you have plenty of room to open and close. And I just really like this because when you cinch it down, it just gives you more ways to control the weight. And so I'm sure that a lot of you are already familiar with this pack. It's a wonderful 60-liter pack. And something to mention is that, way back, I guess, they used to just define packs by their internal liter volume. And now it's with all the outside pockets, side pockets, that's all included in when they say like this is a 60-liter pack, they're not just saying about the internal, they're talking about all the outside pockets. So if you take this pack and put it next to a Hyperlite 3400, the Hyperlite's going to look a lot bigger because the main body pack, it has a bigger liter capacity in the main body. One other thing I'll talk about in this video, I do carry a Fannypack. This is made by Thru pack. I carried one all last year. I love it. I did end up getting a new one this year because they did come up with a new style that has this front mesh pocket. That's really the only change. It's about 2.5 to 3 liters. There's a back pocket that you can put your phone in. I don't personally choose to do that, but this comfy strap is what makes the pack for me, because most other fanny packs I found that they either have their strap built into it, so even if you wanted to, you couldn't change it out, this comfy strap really is amazing. And the guy who runs this company, his name is Paul, in Virginia here as well. I live in Virginia. And just a great guy. If you want something smaller, bigger, willing to work with you. And it's just great because what I like to carry in here is a couple of snacks. I carry some aquamarina drops. I also, when I'm hiking, I have my Garmin attached to the belt, along with, and a lot of people gave me crap about this, but I always have this extra emergency drinking water. And the reason for that is because a lot of times, you know, when you're on trail, you'll put your pack down, maybe go to the bathroom, but there's been lots of times where people have, you know, wandered off trail without their pack and become lost in the woods, and not so much on the PCT, but really wherever is possible. And it can be quite scary. So in this situation, if that ever were to happen, I would have some extra water, some food, some treatment drops to treat more water, and my Garmin in order to call for help if I needed to. It's just kind of a safety mechanism in case you ever do get separated from your pack, because on a through hike, or especially when you're hiking alone, which generally I'm hiking alone, it can be really terrifying. So just some ideas to keep in mind. These two pouches, this is my first aid kit. It's about 7 ounces. I do carry more first aid than the average Joe. I carry an EpiPen, I carry some broad spectrum antibiotics, as well as the medication for Giardia. I had my doctor pre-prescribe these things because, you know, all the way out in California to try and find a doctor, at least I'd have some medication to help me along, especially if I'm out in the middle of the woods and I can't be into a town for a couple of days. So this is all stuff that I'll go over in more detail. But one other thing I wanted to talk about real quick was, and this is something I kind of touched on in the beginning, was that a lot of people, they tend to, their gear videos, and again, I just want to shout out to everyone that does vlogging videos, because they're all so inspirational, and I don't know, I've always been kind of shy when it comes to that kind of thing, so it sort of inspired me to start doing this. And as rough as these videos may be in the beginning, I just really appreciate everyone who produces content. And for those of you on the PCT this year, I'm really hoping to be able to meet some of you and share stories and that kind of thing. So I just wanted to say that. But one of the things that I noticed is that a lot of men in particular, they carry this Columbia Silver Ridge Light shirt. And I've noticed that a lot of people, when they talk about it, they say, well, this is the shirt that every man uses. And I was thinking, well, I don't use that. I use, and this shirt is awesome. And I think after I tell you about it, you might want to consider it, because it's very similar, from what I understand, to the Silver Light. It has, you know, vented strips all the way down the back, and in the back as well. But what sets it apart, in my opinion, is in the front, and if you also notice the mesh there, in the front, it has this big zipper pocket right here, and that pocket is big enough, and it's also mesh, to fit any phone. It fits my Galaxy S9 Plus, and it also has this smaller pocket right here for, you know, a knife or anything else, and it's just such a lightweight, versatile shirt. This is made by a company called Rail Riders, and they make a lot of really lightweight, comfortable hiking gear. Now, the only downside is that they tend to have, I mean, because they sell out all the time. This is called the Mojave Sun Shirt, and I think right now they're not going to be back in stock until the end of this month, February. But it's definitely a great option. This has gone through hundreds and hundreds of miles, and it still looks like it's in pretty good shape. It's made in this really small, their clothes are made in this really small island off the coast of Madagascar called Mauritius. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but I do find it very, very interesting. And of course, this is my small little ditty pack by Z-Packs. I will be making a video at some point going over all the cottage companies, because I have been fortunate enough to get gear from almost all of them at one point or another. And I think that they all sort of have their own personality, their own pros and cons. One of the things that I love about Z-Packs is their dry bags. I think not only are they some of the best priced, but they're just so versatile, and that's something that I really do enjoy from that company. So anyway, please let me know if you guys have any suggestions, or actually I just remembered one thing, sorry, how to make these videos better. This is the stake sack, or the pole sack for the tarp tent. So I actually carry 3 poles, and this will be carried on the outside in the mesh pocket. So that this combination right here with the 3 poles is about 3.5 pounds, which I know people love to say, Brian, you are insane for that, but it's such a wonderful, for me, a tent. I love being able to stretch out in it, read at night, just be comfortable. And that, again, is going to be personal preference. I guess while I have you here, I'll go over one other thing, which is my food bag. Now, this outside bag is just a DCF dry bag made by Mountain Laurel Designs. And the reason I went with theirs is because it fits my food bag, which is the OPSAK Minor. So this is designed more for like critters, raccoons, but again, in my experience, I've used 2 of their bags. This one and the Almighty. This one weighs in about 5 ounces. The Almighty is supposed to be bear proof, critter proof, whatever proof, but it's almost 14 ounces, and it is also a little harder to pack because when you get it, it's very stiff, and whereas this one is malleable, you can roll it down. That one is very stiff. It's made out of a UHMW and then a Kevlar, which is this material inside. So while I love that, it's very hard to pack. It always needed a special place in my pack. It was heavy. So I switched out to the Minor, which inside, of course, I have the OPSAK smell-proof bag. And the reason I have it in this bag is because this OPSAK is not waterproof, but this is. So, you know, I just cinch this up, and I will run a line out from the little loop in there. And in most areas in the desert section of the PCT, I'll just hang it from a big tree, not like a bear hang, but tie it to a tree. Last year in 700 miles, my bag never moved once. Nothing ever touched it. And I was with a lot of people, not necessarily on trail, but I heard people in town telling stories about how their bag was completely destroyed by killers. And of course, I just put the stickers on it to make it much more visible, because the desert, you know, especially that color, it can be very hard to find things, especially if an animal takes it away. So that's that. And anyway, I don't want to keep you guys here too long, but I do plan on making some more videos and going into more depth about these things. So please let me know if you have any questions, comments, concerns. Look forward to hearing from you.